Call to order the meeting of the Dickinson City Commission for Tuesday, July 4th, 2022. Let the record show that all commissioners are present. First item up is the order of business. Mrs. Carlson, are there any changes to the order of business?
President Decker, there is no changes.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Any questions on the order of business? There are no questions. I'd look for a motion on the order of business.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion to approve the order of business by Commissioner Oderman, second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion on the order of business? Being none, all in favor of the order of business as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next item up is consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that the Commission wishes to discuss? Being no discussion on the consent agenda, I'd look for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Walla,
Second.
second by Commissioner Oderman. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Soboluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We'll move right into administration and finance. First item up this evening is we have a application by the American Legion Matthew Brew number 3 for charitable gambling. Deputy City Administrator Carlson, you'll be handling this?
Correct. Thank you, President Decker. Thank you. Being presented to the Commission is a gaming site authorization for American Legion Matthew Brew number 3. This gaming license will be located at Sanford Grub and Pub. Sanford Grub and Pub is licensed with a restaurant license. Sanford also has a designated bar area in their restaurant that is for patrons 21 years of age or older. It should be noted that our municipal code states that restaurant liquor license holders are not eligible for gaming. However, in the past, the city has granted accommodations to this code. The placement of the gaming machines will be in the designated bar area according to the map that is provided in your packet. And staff is presenting this authorization for the Commission's consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson. Are there any questions for Mrs. Carlson or staff on this application?
Do we not just change that?
That was, I did go back and review the code for changes from last meeting, and they did say that with a separate bar location, gaming is allowed.
Yeah, I thought we changed
And
that
so
with
it's
the
no
liquor
longer
license
just a,
ordinance.
just a through process. We're doing that. It's actually codified in code. So I saw that today, and I was happy to see that in there. I forgot about that already, so that was good. Yeah.
Lieutenant Hanson, any concerns from the police department?
Thank you, sir. I do know that Captain Ciani had been looking at their map, and he had been looking.
I know you're not a rookie because you're a lieutenant.
He had been looking at it, and he had been examining where they wanted the gaming license, and I know he's been working with them and before the approval got sent over here.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions for Mrs. Carlson or staff? There are no further questions. I'd look for a motion on this gaming, charitable gaming permit.
Mr. President, move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Frederick,
Second.
second by Commissioner Soboluk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mrs. Soboluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next item up is the Giving Hearts Day Proclamation. And I have a proclamation to read. We have some members of the Giving Hearts here. If they wish to come forward before I read the proclamation. Do you have any please introduce you to the people watching and
I
the
am-
crowd behind you. So.
I am Emily Gran. I'm with Aspire ND, and this is Brett.
Brett Seeks from Valiance Ministries.
And we are the lucky few that got to make it into town today for this proclamation. And Giving Hearts Day has been around in Southwest North Dakota for, we figured, 10 years now. And there is 9 organizations participating this year, and this is an online giving day, 24 hours, for us to raise as much money as possible. So amongst those participating this year is the Assumption Abbey, Badlands Ministries, Benedict Living Community, Best Friends Mentoring, Camp Recreation, Dickinson Public Library Foundation, Home on the Range, Sunrise Foundation, Aspire ND, and West River Health Service Foundation. And we work year round to get this collaborative going for Giving Hearts Day, and that will be February 10th of this year.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that information. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Giving Hearts Day Proclamation for the City of Dickinson, North Dakota, in observance of Giving Hearts Day in Dickinson. Whereas, in 2008, Giving Hearts Day was created by the Dakota Medical Foundation and the Impact Foundation as the first one-day virtual fundraising event of its kind in the region. And whereas, the goals of Giving Hearts Day are to raise awareness of the charitable nonprofit sector and its organizations in North Dakota and western Minnesota, to assist the organizations in better telling their mission stories, to promote online giving, and to provide donors the opportunity to multiply the results of their giving. And whereas this 24-hour online fundraising event is dedicated to inspiring online donations for charities at givingheartsday.org. And whereas Giving Hearts Day is powerful because it inspires so many to give for the first time or to contribute to newly discovered charities. And whereas the charitable nonprofit sector provides much needed services that improve the quality of life for so many in our community. And whereas the charitable nonprofit sector supports individuals and families with quality programs, materials, and funds that promote and encourage self-sufficiency. And whereas all of the above listed benefits serve to strengthen the fiber of our community and make it richer for all residents. And whereas, in order to provide these benefits, charities who provide these services need ongoing funds in order to provide long-term sustainable services for our residents in need. And whereas, these charities have demonstrated a need for collaboration and resources and have joined together for this one-day online fundraiser. Now, therefore, I, Scott Decker, President of the Dickinson, North Dakota, do hereby declare February 10th, 2022, Giving Hearts Day in Dickinson. And with that, I would look for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
And Carlson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll have a very successful day again like you did last year.
Thank you. And I've got some flyers for you guys to pass around.
We'll move on. Our next item up is the abatement hearing date. Mr. Hirschfeld.
Thank you, Mayor Decker, Commissioners. We do have 7 abatement applications that were filed this year. There's 3 properties. 2 of those properties filed for the 3 years that they were eligible for. We moved this out of the November, December timeframe, thinking that we were going to be moving into the new building. Didn't quite work out that way, so here we are getting ready to move into the new building, but needing to set these abatement hearings anyway. Do want to request that we do not set it for the second meeting here in January, because that's probably, we'll be spending that time frame around that, moving my office. But that January 31st date's still a good date for us, but if you want to hold it on a regular scheduled meeting, If you so desire, we could do that in February as well, so.
What is the latest?
We're statutorily given 60 days from November 1st, but I've been in contact with the property owners, told them about our situation here moving, asked if they would waive the 60 days, that we do have waivers in writing from both parties regarding that. So we've got a little bit of flexibility with this. We just cannot continue to put it off forever. So, I mean, they're open to whatever works for us. So, I mean, if it's February, even if it was later, maybe, we could get that to pass all right with them as well. And just looking for a date to get back in contact with them and keep this moving forward, so.
Commissioners, what works on your schedule?
31st works for me.
31st works for me also.
I don't want to just do it on the 1st February.
First meeting? Do you anticipate it to be lengthy?
It may be, it all depends. I mean, we're still, had some ongoing contact, need to sit down with them and kind of button up a value, see if, they can be a little more realistic with where they started versus maybe where the market would support it. We're not quite there yet, so, I mean, if we get close, it'll go quickly. If we don't, it could be a lengthy meeting. Now, February 1st is the county's meeting night or meeting morning, so we were hoping to butt these up back to back to where we could hear ours and then they'd be in town to go to the county meeting. And so that was kind of where we were looking at the 31st to do that with, but if that doesn't work for this commission, then so be it. It'll get heard at the March meeting for the county then.
And it has to be heard by us first, and then the county.
Correct.
The
It
31st?
was just the next day, that's why I was.
Paul? Okay. 31st it is.
Evening meeting, 4:30 start time, or?
I would say evening would work best for the commission.
Say with 4:30?
4:30. 4:30 on the 31st.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Next item up, we have some reports. First is an update on our city website, and our IT manager, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. So obviously you guys know we've been working on the new website. So we have it here today to kind of give you a brief overview of what it's going to look like. We're going to try to go live mid to late January. Your new homepage is very search oriented. We did away with a lot of the menu system to kind of simplify it for citizens as well as bring that information out on what's more used. We also designed more portal based. So for instance, the government portal, I just have a small snapshot of each of these pages. Focuses on elected officials, but also focuses on city code, the uncodified ordinances, news related to government function. We also took a look at your meetings and minutes page so we can make it simple for citizens to find what they're looking for. Landed each of the different main boards. Current agenda, we did away with some of the OneNote notebooks that were confusing some of the citizens. Put the current agenda, put it in PDF form so that they can open it on any device. We did leave the past agendas in the OneNote format, but we also do post it in PDF format as well. Keep it nice and simple for them. As I was mentioning on the portals, each of the different headings on that main page comes to a different portal. We took the main highlights of what a person in that perspective would be looking for and kind of landed them on these pages. So the moment they get there, they can find what they're looking for. On the bottom of both the resident and the business portal, they can also fill out electronic forms, which we will get to. So you can see kind of the business portal, basic functions that businesses would be looking for as they come to the website. Same with the services portal. To touch on electronic forms, we are converting a lot of the forms. I say a lot because some of them are state forms. They have to be in state format, and some of them have to be notarized, so we can't convert them fully to electronic. They do sit on the page. They are PDF fillable. But the forms that we have internally, building permits, planning permits, we landed them on here. We put them as electronic format. We'll go to online payment as well. So we can begin taking those forms electronically so people don't have to print them off and submit them that way. So this will come with the new website. The forms that we don't convert will also sit in the same location, so they don't have to search to a different part of the website to find them. One of the biggest changes, so this is the bottom half of the homepage. It also includes some links, top documents that people would be looking for. We're bringing a new feature, which is the city dashboards. We'll touch on a few of them. I'm just going to briefly touch on what they cover instead of going through them in depth. For instance, this is going to be the business certificates. A person can come here and they can see which certificates we issue, who we issue them to, how many fees we've collected on each of these licenses. The CIP projects, so you guys see some of this data in budgeting. We took some of those Excel sheets and converted them into dashboards. You can see how many dollars are spent on street projects, stormwater projects. You can kind of see the basic status that's imported in that as far as where the project's at. Of course, our city funds, you can jump between the different funds, see where they're at for expenses as well as revenue. Kind of get a breakdown in the composition of what makes up those funds as well. Police statistics, so every day this dashboard does update with the different statistics fed straight from the police databases, so we can see what's the crime statistics and criminal arrest statistics in the community. Same thing for permitting, what type of building permits, how many projects are we tracking, where they're kind of at. Property tax, this also feeds directly from the taxation software, from the assessing department. You can click around in this dashboard, get the average taxation values, whether it's residential or commercial or all properties in general. Solid waste, we do statistics upon the tickets and e-ticket sales. So you can kind of see basically trending values, what we're collecting for materials as well as what we're collecting for fees on that and how it's trending versus previous year. And finally, utility billing, dealing with our utility bills, water usage, consumption, where we're at for collections on bills, what's out there for outstanding bills, and so forth. Any questions?
Questions for
Mr. President,
Schroederman?
Mr. Meyer, is this going to be like mobile friendly too? You
Yes.
guys building it? Okay.
Yes. It's all mobile friendly,
Great.
including the dashboards.
Awesome.
And this is going to go hot again when?
Mid to late January. With the move, we're not nailing down a specific date, but we will be hopefully soon setting an actual strict date of when we're going. But it'll be coming this month.
You're really going to make the Dickinson data nerds like myself happy with this here. Good stuff.
Thank you.
All right. That's good. Any other questions? All right, we will move into city board appointments, and Deputy City Administrator Carlson, you'll be handling it.
Thank you, President Decker. Before you in your packet, we have members terming in the Planning and Zoning Department, and we have some that are desiring for reappointments. In the Planning and Zoning, there is two people in there that are looking to get off the Planning and Zoning, and then we do have two citizen entrance forms in there for to take the place of these people that are looking to be on Planning and Zoning. The only thing that, because this is a report, the only thing that we wanted to bring forward is being that we're going through the ETZ and expanding. Is there a desire to have anybody from the ETZ area to be able to sit on the board also, if you were looking at that at all? Just food for thought on that too.
I think Mr. Cordnoy
Is that?
is,
He's done.
but he was the representative
He's the
for the ETZ,
Right.
And he moved into town actually now, so.
so. So the county's going to have to bring forward whoever they want as their representative for the ETZ.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think just somebody has to submit the form. The county.
Right,
their
to the county.
recommendation.
Right.
I think they make it to us.
Well, I think somebody has to step up to them and submit a form to them, right? Just like they submit to us. Okay.
I think it,
I noticed
anybody
that's
from the
good.
ETZ would just do our form is the way I understand it.
Correct. If I recall correctly, I believe that we have to have two, and Mr. Hadley can weigh in on this as the resident expert here, but we do have to have two members from the ETZ sit on the commission to make sure that we balance out county versus city. So I don't know specifically these two individuals. I believe they're probably both city residents. So we just need to make sure that at the end of the day, we're balanced on the city, on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Mr. Franchek sits, obviously he represents the county. Mr. Cordnoy did, and I think those were the only two.
Those are the only two.
So
Were we going to have to expand? I mean, there was talks of that too. So.
there is certain discussions, I've talked with Mr. Hadley about this, whether or not we want to consider doing that. We certainly can. The statute requires a certain number of individuals represent the ETZ. So if the board does expand, then we would have to increase the number of commission members, of course. I guess it just depends on whether or not the city would want more representation from the ETZ, considering the ETZ would be expanding. And if that's the case, this board would have to make the decision to expand the membership and then deal with the appointments.
So then my question was that if we expand to the 4 mile, like we talked, and we expand the ETZ to 3, including the county commissioner, then they will outnumber the city.
Right, so that's why you would have to look at expanding the commission itself.
So if we do that, so we would have to add actually 2 members of the city, if that's what we're going to do.
One city and one county.
Well, she's saying that we're going to have, when we expand.
Mr. Hadley, if he wants to come up, we've been working on this through the process here, and if I recall correctly, the statute specifically says with the expansion to the 4 mile, I believe we have to have 3.
I think 3 is the magic number. We were looking to add 2 because Mr. Franchek was on there.
Yep.
So we were counting him. That's the way it stands today.
Right. Because on the.
And good evening, sorry.
So we would need 2 ETZ.
We do.
We have 1 now, we need to have 2.
Well, Ms. Winko and I need to determine that Mr. Franchek is a representative of the ETZ or a representative from the county.
Well, he lives in the city.
I'm sorry, what?
He lives in the city, even though he's a county commissioner, but.
I
Right.
believe he's on the capacity for the county's representation.
Right. He doesn't represent the.
The other thing, too, is that we haven't officially expanded the ETZ yet because that ordinance has not been adopted yet. So,
Okay. So right now we have 2 city, 1 Parks and Rec, a city commissioner, a county commissioner, and 1 ETZ. Am I correct?
correct. If you don't.
Oh, no, there's actually 3 cities. You have Mr. Bullinger, that's 2, Mr. Bush, Ms. Dukart. Then you have Mr. Karski's planning, Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Yep.
Myself as the city commissioner.
Yep.
County Commissioner, Mr. Franchuk. Did I say Mr. Brad Cordnoy? Did I say Mr. Bullinger? I did.
Yep.
So that's 7.
And I think the thought process is that the county commissioner has served in both capacities. That's the only way that I can figure it based on the current membership of the board. Unless
So
you guys
we'd
have
either
done something.
So, I mean, to expand 1, we'd have to go to 2. We don't want to have an even number, correct?
Correct, you wouldn't.
So well, we're at 7 now, so we'd either have to go to,
You'd have to go to 9.
so we'd have to add 2, 1 city and 1 county.
Right.
Or 1 ETC.
And Mrs. Dukart says that she's done, so we need to, by the time, we need to make these appointments, by the time your meeting is.
Which is, yeah, 2 weeks. So
2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. So even if we don't expand the ETZ, we could expand to 9, correct?
I don't believe there's any requirement that says that the city has to have 7. That's based on your determination.
So that we could expand to 9, and if we wouldn't expand, we would just have 9.
Right.
Otherwise, if we expand, then we're gonna have to come back and expand it again.
I think if I could, Mr. President, what I would suggest is seeing what the county has for representation too, because I think they're soliciting. So I think in the past, when those members were appointed for the county, it was actually done through the county to the city administrator and then this board. I think that's how it worked before.
I'm trying to remember how Mr. Coordinate, he came on when you and I were both on it, so.
I don't know how if he was appointed. I thought his application came.
Mr.
through us.
Josephson probably, he's got a
Maybe he's got
encyclopedia
it.
that he can open, so.
President Decker, Commissioner Steve Josephson. So I believe what happened with Mr. Cordnoy was back in, I think it was 17, the county commission was recruiting for a replacement for someone on the county planning and zoning commission. And I believe Mr. Cordnoy, I think he applied, he lived in the ETZ. I think his application actually came in late, but his application was actually forwarded over to the city, you know, and the city made the appointment. If I recall correctly, that was about 4 years ago, but I believe that's what I remember, was that he had put in an application and his application was forwarded over to the city.
So-
And then the city made the appointment.
So we would expand to 9, we would need 2 city and 1 additional, and 2 county actually, because Mr. Courtney's getting off,
Right.
so.
Right. We have 2 applicants for the city.
And that's where I'm going with that, you know, so. If
I
that's
guess, Mr. President, Commissioners, I guess the question becomes, do you make those appointments before you officially expand? Because that's not on the agenda this evening to make that decision, whether you're going to do that or not. Whether that needs to have more thought and that, I don't know, but that would be the only thing, is you'd be making the appointments outside of tolerance for what currently would be allowed, and then you'd have to go back and then seek the expansion of the board.
Well, we could appoint 1.
You certainly could, yes, and you could
Fill the one
hold the
position.
application for the second
And
one
hold it,
until.
yes, hold the
yeah,
application for the second one,
Yeah.
till we expand.
Mr. Josephson, do you know, are they actively seeking over there at the county, or?
Sorry.
Are they actively seeking replacements for the ETZ? Because Mr. Portner will be done at the end of the month here.
No.
Or he's done, I guess, as of last.
I don't even know if you know, if Commissioner Franchuk is aware that, well, he probably is. No, they're not going through that process, but I'll have a discussion tomorrow and see how the county wants to handle that, if the county's going to actually recruit for someone from the extraterritorial zone, so.
Yeah, 'cause my understanding was when Mr. Franchuk was on there as an elected official capacity, like we have somebody on there planning and zoning that's a commissioner.
That's
So
correct.
that's really not the ETZ.
No, and he doesn't, and it doesn't matter if he lived in the city, the extraterritorial zone, or out in the county. He's there representing the county as an elected official, just like the city has 2 commissioners who sit on the county's planning and zoning commission. So no, he wouldn't count as he lives in the city anyway. He's there as a representative of the county commission.
Yep.
But I will have that discussion with him, you know, to get the process going to recruit someone who wants to serve on city planning and zoning in the extraterritorial zone. I'm guessing that the way that would work is the county would recruit and then forward those applications over to the commission is,
Yeah. To Mr. Winninghammer, yeah.
okay. I will get in touch with Mr. Franchuk tomorrow.
Well, he should know, he was at the last planning and zoning when Mr.
Yes.
Portnoy
Oh, yeah, we had
announced,
talked about,
announced he wasn't seeking reappointment, so.
Okay. We'll make sure of that, so, okay.
So
And just a quick, I pulled up the email and the email that I looked at when I did it initially. So by statute, and it's all based on, again, population, if we must have 3 persons residing outside the corporate city limits of a city having a population of 25,000 or more. So must live ETZ or county. Must have at least 3. So we have to have, I'll just tell you what the statute says. So in addition to the members appointed by the city, the zoning commission shall include at least 1 person residing outside of the corporate limits of a city having a population of less than 5,000, which is not us. 2 persons if the population is 5,000 or more, which is not us, and less than 25,000, or 3 persons residing outside the corporate limits of a city having a population of 25,000 or more. So we must have 3 ETZ. Correct. Yep.
Well, one of the things that can solve that is they change who their commissioner that they have sitting here. They have commissioners that live in the county.
Sure.
They have 2 commissioners that live in the county. Mr. Messer and Mrs. Arthur. So if we have to have 3, they need to look at, plus that rezone too takes one of the positions out of the county too, out of the 5. Puts 3 solely in the county, right?
I'm not.
I think only
understanding your
Mr.
question.
Franchuk and Mr. Marsh are, their zones lie within the city limits.
I'd have to pull it up to look, but
Okay.
Mr. Josephson, maybe you could help us with that. With the new county districts, there's still 3 in-town districts, correct? Like, depending on where you are in your district, if you're a county commissioner, you could be in town. There's 3 different districts that would have sections in town, correct?
I believe so. I would have to check and verify that.
I'm pretty sure too.
I'm pretty sure
Let me
of
just
that.
pull up the Stark County website. It's got to be easily accessible there.
The other distinction, Commissioners, to the point about whether or not, the chairman of the Stark County or the elected official, the statute doesn't specifically state that that person sits in their capacity as the chairman of the county or the county elected official. It just simply says that we have to have 3 persons who do not live in the city limits. So I think that's probably why, up until this point, Mr. Franchuk has been included, or was. I mean, if he lives in the city, that's a little bit odd.
He does live in the city.
But that would be the only,
So we're really not even.
I don't even think we're probably in compliance now.
Right. And Commissioners, just to let you know, when I first came here, that ETZ seat has been open, was open for a long time until Mr. Cordnoy took it, and I think part of it was just not being able to find somebody who
Right.
lived in the extraterritorial zone who wanted to serve on the city's Planning and Zoning Commission. And I would just ask Attorney Wenko, where's that citation in the Century Code so I can,
I will have to email you. I have the actual citation, but I don't have the century code number, but I will email you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Josephson.
So right now, we would be sitting at 3 city members, 1 elected official, and 1 park board member. And then 1 county commissioner, and then 1 ETZ. So if we need 3, we need to add 2.
So can
We need to have 2 more.
But can we make that
2 more on top.
stipulation on the county, asking them going forth that it's a non-city resident? That's one of the county commissioners that would be appointed to the P&Z?
Well, it doesn't even have to be a county commissioner. It just has to be a representative from the ETZ.
Right.
Well, but
We could.
to make that 3, because it has to be 3 now that we're over 25.
I assume they just had put a commissioner on to represent the
Right.
commission, so.
To have a county interest at the table, for sure.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be that to fulfill the requirements.
Correct. I mean,
But we could
Well, but
ask.
if we need to have 3 to fulfill the requirements
Yeah.
of the century code with our size, that seems like a way to achieve that goal.
It does. And that's what I was getting at, because we do have two that I know live in the
Right.
county.
The way we're set up now, if they wanted to keep a commissioner that, the way it is, we would have to actually have 2 more county positions added. So that would put us up to 9. That would put us up to 9, no matter what, basically.
Right.
And then we would only have one city one to fill. We wouldn't expand the city, so.
The other thought process, and maybe, I believe we would still have a quorum even in the event that we didn't make appointments this evening. Considering a lot of discussion is being had about the ETZ and the expansion, maybe it would be prudent to table the appointments until we have an opportunity to discuss this a little bit more thoroughly with Stark County as part of the ETZ expansion. And make sure that they're understanding and they're on the same board, same page with the city, with the expansion.
So even though the board today sits at 7 members, if we are short 2 members,
We'd
do they
be at
count,
5.
do they even count towards the, like, because you have to be 50% plus 1 or whatever, would they even count?
No,
Since you're only a 5-member board today.
Yeah, we wouldn't have
You'd
enough.
only have to have 3 to have your meeting, so it's not, it won't be a
Yeah.
quorum issue, would it?
Well, assuming nobody.
Well, as
Yeah.
long as you're not less than
Nobody
3.
doesn't show
Show
up.
up, yeah. But, I think that we could swing it for 1 month between now and, if we had an opportunity to talk to the county and county representatives between now and the next time that they meet, which is the February 1st.
I mean, both the applicants here are city people, so it really is not going to change anything. We have to fill the city spot anyway.
Right, but we only have 1 city spot to fill, or 2?
Yeah, I mean, we could, if we essentially would add another one, we would just have to, that applicant could come back, that we could and reapply, or we could put it, them next in line or whatever, so.
And is there any grace period, like since we just became 25,000 as of August 2020, is there, within 12 months you have to be within this tolerance, or it's just a?
Unfortunately, the statute doesn't say that, so it doesn't give any guidance on that. It just says here are the parameters that the city and the county have to meet.
So what are we looking to decide on tonight?
Well, basically, we have 1 open city spot, so we'd have to decide between the 2 applicants for planning and zoning
Okay.
that we have, if we decide to appoint somebody tonight.
Yeah, this is just a report. There's no action necessary.
And in situations where there's multiple applicants for a role, is it usually us as commissioners that, or do we talk with the planning and zoning to help get their input on, or what's the normal? Because I don't think there's usually more applicants than.
We, in the past, have
Roll.
people that have applied, we've appointed.
Mhm.
So,
I don't know that we've had many situations with that extra. Maybe one time, there might have been one on Board of Adjustment a
Right.
few years back or something. But
So.
I mean, as the president of the planning and zoning, do you feel we need to make an appointment for that open for Mrs. Ducart's position?
Well, we'd be missing 2. I mean, the only thing that would affect us is if somebody doesn't show, can't make this meeting, then we'd be at an even number. So
Right.
we wouldn't technically have a quorum then. Well, I guess we technically would, but
I don't want to get too late, but it could be done, but it'd be best if everybody was available and there.
So, you want to make the appointment?
I mean, I don't think there's any reason not to.
Okay.
You guys, I mean,
As,
and if we decide to add a city person, we
Right.
can always go back to
Go
the
back
person that
and-
didn't, so.
get the other individual. I will turn this over for the discussion of the appointment to Mr. Frederick, because I have conflict between the 2. So that's his discussion.
So, yeah, let's go there.
President Decker, do you want to just hold on this to go to our public hearing, or would you like to make the?
Oh, yeah, it's up.
Yeah,
Appointments?
we'll hold. Yeah, thank you.
Because
for
we'd
that
have
reminder.
to
Yep.
reappoint the other ones in the other commissions too.
Okay.
We're over our time.
Yes, we are. Okay, so we'll move into the public hearing. We'll take this up after all that. Public hearing and public comments. First item up, and this is Mr. Josephson, public hearing, chapter 39, ordinance amendment.
Yes, thank you, President Decker, Commissioners. Good evening and Happy New Year. This is a request for rezoning for an amendment to the zoning, to the zoning code, to Chapter 39. And what it would do is it would change some language regarding a columbarium, which I don't know if you all are familiar with that, but that's a building or structure used or intended to be used for the internment of cremated human remains. This was actually, application came from Stevenson Funeral Home. They have a representative here tonight along with their consultant, and they want to have a columbarium at their location. The current zoning ordinance does not allow that. It only allows a columbarium if it's associated with a cemetery. This would allow for for a columbarium upon approval of a special use permit. What I will say is that the applicant and their representative did approach the city about this, and the city has met and worked with them to come up with what you have before you today. And I'm going to call on the applicant and their representative to discuss why they came forward with this application. But this would allow for an outdoor columbarium as a special use in the high-density residential, limited commercial, and community commercial zoning as well as the general commercial zoning district. So at this point, I'm going to ask the applicant and their representative to come on up.
Good evening. I'm Kenzie Robertson with Highlands Engineering. We're representing Stevenson Funeral Home. As Mr. Josephson had mentioned, we are drafting an amendment to the zoning code for the columbaria. Over the past 20 years, there's been a change in the funeral industry, going a lot more towards cremation, and as a result of that, there's more of a need for cremated remains. In the city of Dickinson, there's currently no vacant lots for cremated remains. The cemetery that the city has was built, or the mausoleum was built excuse me, in the mid-90s up until 2015. Still currently, I think half of those were available, and then over the last 5 years, the remaining half have been sold. So as a need for this, the Stevenson Funeral Home has reached out to us to try and get something going to get a columbaria on their property. As Mr. Josephson mentioned, we've been working with the city to draft this text. And with that, if there's any questions for us, we'd ask for your approval at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Any questions for the representatives from Stevenson Funeral Home? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Josephson, you have any additional information?
Yes,
before we go to the public hearing?
Yes, Commissioners. I just wanted to state that this was presented. There was a public hearing held at the December Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Both the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff recommend approval, and this would be the first reading of this ordinance. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Josephson. Any questions for Mr. Josephson before I open the public hearing?
Mr. President, I might actually have a question for the representatives from Stevenson. How many niches would you have in this? Is that what they're called?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Each one of the columbariums have, the one that we're looking at right now has 96 per unit. We're potentially looking at 2 or 4 right away. The layouts that we eventually will have set is the potential to grow for possibly 6. Part of the reason for that is the increase in cremation, as Mr. Robertson said. We're seeing that trend in our community push towards about 50% or more, which then allows folks different opportunities. It gives them other options to choose where they would have the cremated remains placed. The need that we've seen that through the city is on the north side of the current mausoleum. That there was about 140 niches is what was available, and it took almost 20 years to fill the first half of them. And as Mr. Robertson said, the last 5 years fulfilled the last half of them. We've been without any niches available for over a year now. And so we've had a lot of families that have sought this or have asked about it. And so I know there's plans for the city down the road to add to the mausoleum and provide more niches, but this is an immediate need that our families are requesting and desiring right now.
It's a nice private solution to the need.
Thank you.
Any additional questions?
No, that was the only comment I had. As I was grateful that you guys came up with this solution, and just then as we're looking, as we go down the road and when we decide how we want to finalize the plans for our mausoleum, we can take this into consideration, and perhaps we don't have to have as expansive, or, you know, like, we can see where we are at that point in time. So thank you for sharing this plan with us.
Thank you.
And then also with that, when we do our special use permit, we'll have the actual number of niches in that application.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will open up the public hearing. If anyone has any comments on this ordinance amendment, and this is ordinance number 1742, please come forward, state your name, and let us know if you have any concerns or questions on the ordinance amendment. If you're watching online, you may call into 701-456-7006.
The conference is currently empty.
Again, if anyone has any questions or concerns on the ordinance amendment to our Chapter 39, please come forward, state your name. This is ordinance number 1742. Any concerns or questions? Anyone have any questions or concerns? Seeing no one from the public has any questions or concerns on this ordinance amendment, we'll close the public hearing. Again, this is ordinance 1742. Commission, look for, if you don't have any additional questions, I'd look for a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Oderman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. Next item up, we have a presentation for the capital campaign update for the downtown square by Christy Schwartz. Good evening.
Good evening, President Decker, Commissioners, staff. I'm Christy Schwartz. I'm the board president for the Downtown Improvement District. We're the 501c3 entity that is raising capital for the town square. I just wanted to come before you tonight to give you an update on our capital campaign. So far in our campaign, we've only been doing our silent phase of the campaign, and our current dollars, both pledged and donated, are at $1,668,000, just actually a little bit north of that. So we're well past half of our goal of $3 million. The city has a MOU with us for $2 million, but we raised that amount to be able to make sure we get all of the aspects in the square that the community wanted. There are currently 24 donors. That does not include, I counted the power of 100 as one donor, but of course there are over 200 donors within the power of 100 who have supported us. We have 2 large donations of $200,000 and 8 donations of $100,000, and the rest are smaller than that. So
I feel like we've had just a really good start on our campaign, and wanted to give you that update. Coming up here soon too, we should be finding out if we are getting any grant dollars from the MDU Foundation, which announces later this month.
I'll let you go into town. You can get all 4 million.
Good progress.
Yeah, good progress. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item up is public comments, not on the agenda. If there's anyone in the audience has any comments that pertain to items not on our agenda this evening, you may come forward, state your name, and let us know your concerns or your questions. Also, if you're watching online, 701-456-7006. If anyone has any comments about items not on our agenda, please come forward. Anyone? Seeing no one has any comments on items not on our agenda, I'll close that section. We'll go back to the planning and zoning appointment. Mr. Frederick, any desire on that?
Well, okay, so looks like, I can take this one over. Our first one would be planning and zoning. We have 3 appointments to make. We have Mr. Bush, Troy Bush, who desires reappointment, and then 2 appointments that are asking not to be reappointed, Mr. Cordner and Ms. Dukart. As of right now, we do not have anybody that would cover Mr. Cordner's ETZ area, but we do have 2 applicants that would be possible city appointees to fill Ms. Ducart's seat. So we have both applications, and I see one of the applicants is in the audience. I don't know if she'd like to come up and say anything, introduce herself, but if she'd like to.
President Decker, Commission staff, hello, my name is Valerie Decker. I've been a city resident for probably the last 20 years here in Dickinson, and I submitted my citizen interest application probably a couple weeks ago. I currently am employed with Bravera Bank. I'm a commercial lender there. Prior to that, I worked in the legal field. So we have family, we've lived here for a long time. The development and growth of Dickinson is something that I am passionate about. It's great to follow. I try to watch all the meetings, but with that, I'm open to any questions you guys may have.
Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Decker? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners, after reviewing the applications, what are your wishes? Do we need a motion for this, or I would assume?
So right now we need one, but in a couple weeks we might need the second.
Is it possible? Yeah.
Okay. Well, most of the time you give the appointment to the person that doesn't show up at the meeting. But I would give the appointment to the person that showed up at the meeting tonight. I would move to appoint Ms. Decker to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
We have a motion by Commissioner Oderman. Do we have a second?
I would agree, and I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Walla. Any further discussion? We need a roll call. We need a roll call vote on this one? Okay. Okay. We'll go to the vote. Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Ms. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Decker abstains. All right, moving on. Mr. Decker can take back over for the other ones if you would like.
All right, we have, that motion, I think we need to also have to reappoint Mr. Bush.
Right.
So I would look for a motion to reappoint Mr. Bush.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sobeluk for reappointment of Mr. Bush, second by Mr. Frederick. Any further discussion? Now we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Mr. Bush is reappointed. Civil Service, we have 2 individuals that desire reappointment. Mrs. Lisa Giese and Dr. Robert Byer. We have no additional individuals seeking positions on the civil service. So we could group these in one motion to appoint both of them.
Mr. President, I vote to, make a motion to approve Mrs. Giese and Mr. Barrett to reappoint into civil service.
We have a motion to reappoint both individuals with a second by Mr. Oderman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Board of Adjustments, we have 2 individuals, Mr. Larry Bars, that desires reappointment, and Mr. Trevor Ernst desires reappointment to the Board of Adjustment.
I'd move to reappoint those 2 gentlemen to the board.
I have a motion to approve their reappointment
Second.
by Mrs. Sobeluk, second by Ms. Walla. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And the last individual is for the Dickinson Municipal Airport Authority, and that is Mr. Jeff Moore. He desires reappointment to a 5-year term on the Airport Authority.
I'll move to approve his reappointment.
We have a motion to reappoint Mr. Moore to the Airport Authority for a 5-year term by Ms. Walla, second by Mr. Frederick. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Mrs. Sobeluk?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries. All right, passed. I think that is it. Yep, Commission, we're up to your item. Commissioners, this is item 10. Do you have anything you wish to discuss that was not on the agenda this evening?
I may have missed it on the replay. I had to leave early at last meeting, but did we appoint any commissioners to work on that subcommittee on the on a potential homeless shelter? I know we discussed it, but I don't think we formed the committee.
No, that we did
I think we had 2 volunteers.
Okay.
Did we not? Maybe not.
Who are you thinking volunteered?
Voluntold.
Since you left early, you.
Well, I certainly would be interested in volunteering to serve on that subcommittee.
You can be voluntold.
Yeah.
But, so, Mr. Oderman and,
I would volunteer.
okay, Ms. Walla, so they'll make up part of the subcommittee for the homeless shelter. Are there any other items, Commissioners? I just want to scan through again. I didn't miss. Staff, if I missed anything, please bring it up.
I wanted to thank Ms. Nominuk and Ms. Carlson for the quick turnaround on the bonuses for staff. I know it was much appreciated, so.
We can all welcome Aaron to the executive team.
Yep.
This is his first meeting.
So, welcome aboard. And anything else, Commissioners?
Do we know when we're going to have our first meeting in the new building?
I think there was hope the February 1st.
February 1st meeting?
Yeah, I think we were kind of holding out for that last meeting here.
I don't want to go to the wrong place.
We'll adjust. We'll adjust. We'll make sure staff sends out the appropriate emails. So I'm sure it's going to be a lot of movement here in the next couple of weeks. So, and that Mr. Carlson, or I guess, I don't know if you have updates, or Aaron's living over there right now. He might have some updates, so.
I would pass it on to Aaron, because Gary's not here today.
So we're working on moving staff over, moved some today. We're waiting for some cleaning in the central core of the building. That will be movement in the third week of January, so the week of the 17th, moving the front desk stuff first, and then the people right at the end of the week so that we can go live on the 24th. We are waiting for countertops yet in the commission area, so bear with that. Hopefully by the 19th we'll have that glued in place, and the electronics will be in place hopefully that week as well. So it's a moving target, but it's going good.
Some upgraded microphones, hopefully.
I think we're gonna have we're not gonna have the.
Yeah, it's gonna be all hardwired.
Oh.
So hardwired TVs.
Yeah, we're gonna have big
Brand new sound
monitors instead of the screens. We'll have big monitors. So. A little more intimate too.
Yeah.
In there.
Okay.
So. All right. Anything else, Commissioner?
Mr. President, one other thing. The Youth Commission has their first event on Friday night at the Ice Center. They're doing kind of like a broom ball night there. So if anybody would like to come and be an adult chaperone with me.
At 9 p.m., since I can't.
That would be more than welcome. But yeah, the Youth Commission is doing good work, and they're having their first event here this weekend. So
I would love to, but I'll be cheering on the Bison in Frisco.
all right.
Assuming I can get there.
Yeah.
Airlines are a little messed up right now.
Okay. Anything else? Now I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.